Welcome to another episode of Retrospective Gaming. In this episode, I am reviewing Anachronox. No long intro this time, I'm just going to give you a warning. There are minor spoilers in this review. You have been warned. Here is my review of Anachronox. The story starts off on a planet called Anachronox. The main character is a man called Sylvester Bucelli, but his nickname is Sly Boots, and that's what we're going to call him. Sly Boots is a private investigator, so naturally that means he is currently running a successful business. He has a bunch of employees that believe in him 110%, and he makes a bunch of money, right? No, wrong. Very wrong. Boots has fallen from grace. Now he spends his days getting drunk, racking up debts, and he has a nasty habit of getting thrown out of windows. Hungover, desperate, and in debt, Boots has to get up off his ass and find some work. His secretary reminds him of that fact all the time. Fatima is dead, but her personality was uploaded into some device so she can communicate and be Boots' secretary. It's complicated. Luckily for Boots, he finds someone desperate enough to hire him. A weird old man named Grumpos hires Boots to help him find a piece of Miztech. Miztech is an ancient unknown technology. Some say it's alien. Nobody really knows what it does or what to do with it. Boots and Grumpos finally finds this odd piece of technology. Unfortunately, after they both find it, it is taken by a kingpin named Detta because Boots forgot to pay his debt. It's not over yet, this is just the beginning. Grumpos convinces Boots to go on a longer journey to find a scientist named Ro, who is trying to figure out the secrets behind this unknown technology. Some of you might be asking, after all of this bullshit for nothing, how did Grumpos convince Boots to go on an even longer journey? Well, he tells them he can make a fortune if they can figure this all out. So the team travels to a place called Sunder to find this scientist. And you think everything is bad now? It gets worse. Something goes terribly wrong, and the party has to escape Sunder. It is being destroyed, and while they are trying to escape, they are attacked by an enemy called the Hive. What caused Sunder to be destroyed? What are the secrets behind Miztech? How did Fatima die? Is the universe in danger? Who are these enemies attacking them? Obviously, Boots stumbled onto a quest bigger than himself, bigger than finding some money or trying to get rich. Boots unknowingly stumbled onto the biggest case of his life. Him and his party, they have a lot to figure out. There's so much going on in this game, there's so much to figure out. I've only revealed a bit of the story so far. I've only scratched the surface, and I'm going to keep it that way. Anachronox starts off slow. This is a long game. You'll be going to a bunch of different areas, different planets, getting different party members and exploring their backgrounds, some more than others. There's a lot to do in this game, so it starts off slow and it takes a while for the story to really build up. The best thing about Anachronox comes from the characters and the way they handle themselves. This is where the game really shines and shows its charm. The party has this awkward sense of humor when interacting with each other. The game never loses its sense of humor. It never takes itself too seriously. Even in important moments, even when things are going crazy and things get really important, it never takes itself too seriously. Party members will argue with each other, and they will flat out ignore each other during meaningful conversations. In one part of the game, Boots is pouring his heart out to another party member named Stiletto, and she just blows him off. She's like, "What are you talking about? I wasn't paying attention."
A second chance, you know? Between the three of us.
I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
And in another cutscene, the party is floating around in their spaceship and they have to wait a couple of days. And you see different clips of what's going on throughout this time period. And all it takes is a short amount of time before they get cabin fever and they're starting to argue with each other. They're just driving each other fucking insane, and it's hilarious.
Is it you, Joe?
No. He said it wasn't in the Wu-Chan system.
Ha! That's 20 questions. You guys lose.
So what was it?
Anachronox. Man, you guys are dumb.
But you said it started with a U.
Yeah, I know.
We cried for a while. And I said, if you don't think it's love, then leave.
And was it love?
The exact words were, it's love, but it's not in love.
Oh.
Anachronox also does a great job of balancing its sense of humor and serious moments. There is a lot of stuff going on. This game does have character development, especially with its main character Boots, and it's like it almost tricks you because you get a lot of funny stuff right from the beginning. You see Boots, he's a lovable loser, and he's having all this crazy shit happen to him, and he's just stumbling his way through the mission. As he progresses and you figure out what's going on with his background and his story, I feel bad for the guy. I mean, there was a lot of moments where I was like, holy shit, this is pulling at the heartstrings. There's a lot of like crazy stuff going on. A lot of sad moments too, but even with all this stuff going on, it never loses its sense of humor and has a very unique sense of humor with the way all the characters interact. And that's one of the strong points about this game. And even in its slower moments, because there are some slow moments in the game, this game is long, the character interaction and the humor will keep you playing. Different types of party members, like a femme fatale, a lovable loser, a grumpy old man named Grumpos, a small planet named Democratus. That's right, it's a planet that actually shrunk down to almost human-sized level. That's one of the party members. I am not fucking around. A scientist named Ro, who oddly looks like fucking Morpheus with different hair. A washed up drunk superhero named Paco, and I can't forget this little robot that has been following you around for a while. He's actually one of your quote-unquote employees at the detective agency. He's like a sidekick. His name is Pal. And this robot has quite a fucking attitude on him. He talks back to you and he's really snarky, and that's funny. I love his lines in the game because he can be quite an asshole like Boots.
I'm alright, pal.
But you don't have a home anymore.
I haven't had a home since I was 16. I'm okay, pal. Really.
Bad, bitch.
But not only will you be dealing with these crazy cast of characters, you'll also be going to these like weird places, and that's one of the things that I have to stress about Anachronox. It is truly a different type of game. It's really unique. I started to notice it when I ended up in this one area and it was having an election, so everyone's kind of festive, they're waiting to vote, but there was something more sinister going on in the background. These people think that they have a democracy, but the truth is there's a council, and they vote, and they influence everyone else to vote the way that they want them to. So instead of just flat out saying that they're in control and they will do what they say like it's a dictatorship, they do it in a sly way where they convince everybody that the way the council votes is the way to go. So it gives them the illusion of choice. And you're walking around in this area and you're seeing all these posters, and one of these posters say, "Vote on a vomit torture proposal." And I've never seen anything like that in a video game. I hope we don't start seeing those posters in real life. That'd be fucking crazy. And that's another thing that I like about Anachronox. It's attention to detail. When you're traveling throughout these different areas, these different planets, you know you're in a different area. Whether it's the different type of races of aliens that you're talking to, or the different buildings, or for example in this one area where you had to vote like I was saying before. Everyone's kind of festive. Some people know the way the game works, some people are oblivious and they think they have a democracy. People are arguing about different topics. You see posters. There is a great attention to detail, and it shows in one of my favorite areas. Throughout the story, at one part in the game, and I'm not going to tell you why, you get captured by a supervillain, and when you go into this area, everything starts to change. The way you talk to people, the way the font pops up, the way the area looks, the enemies you fight, and some of the people that you run into, it completely changes into like a comic book theme, where it shows like it's a comic book, like you're flipping through the pages, the way the dialogue is, and it just popped up out of nowhere. I was not expecting this. So there is a great attention to detail, and it helps keep the story going. There are a lot of things that I like about the story, but I do have some issues with it. Sometimes the pacing is just painfully slow, and some areas I don't even know why they put them in the game. There was this one area where you have to go underground, and it sort of looks like a cave, and the area is surrounded by lava. And all you're doing is you're just running back and forth, connecting these generators, doing these boring things just to get these generators working. And there was another area, it looked like a boiler room, and you're running around, you have to dodge things, and that area was just also painfully slow. This is a long game, and not every area is going to be a hit for me, but overall, the story and the characters were interesting enough that I slugged through those areas just to get to the next part so I can find out what happened. So there were some areas in this game that I found were just painfully slow and unnecessary. I also thought that one character should have gotten a little bit more time to explain his background and some of the other stuff that he went through so we can find out more about him. And that character was Paco. It's not a major problem that I have, I just wish that he would have gotten a little bit more time because he is an interesting character. Now, I've heard this game referred to as a Western-made JRPG, and when I looked up information about it, I read that the director was influenced by a lot of JRPGs, and that's the direction that he went for this game. I don't know much about JRPGs, I'm not very knowledgeable about the subject, but I think the reason why they say that is because how the story progresses. It's linear, but it's not extremely linear though. There are side quests, there are collectibles, you can talk to minor NPCs, you can explore certain areas and find out more. So it's not just 100% you're just doing the main quest. You can sort of stray off that path and do some other stuff, but mainly you're going down one path and that's the main story. When I played this game, I went out of my comfort zone. This is not the type of RPG that I'm used to. You don't have different stats that you personally get to pick out every time you level up. You level up and it does it for you. You can get different types of items that make your character stronger, but you know what I mean. It's not the type of RPG where you can personally level up a certain stat and you can have an influence on the main quest or the side quests. This game is telling a story and you're along for the ride. And I'm not knocking it, that's not a bad thing because that's not what this game is about. I enjoyed the story and the characters, I thought it was very interesting, it's a different, unique type of game. There's something that I have to tell you. Anachronox was supposed to be a trilogy. If you play this game, you're not going to get a conclusion to the story. At the end, there are going to be things that you want to know that we will never find out because it's been 16 years and we haven't got a sequel. Maybe sometime in the future. As of now, there is not a conclusion to the story. I still think it's worth it because the story, the characters, the way they interact with each other, and the attention to detail are the strongest things about this game. If you're thinking that I spoiled too much about the story so far, I think you're wrong. I left out a bunch of stuff. You have to play the game for yourself to find out. We are not done this review yet. There is still some other stuff I have to talk about. Combat in Anachronox is a hybrid between real-time and turn-based. When you're running around throughout the area, you will see your enemies in front of you. They will be on the map and they will be running around too. There are no random encounters. You don't run around and you see a flash and boom, you're right in combat. No, you see your enemies on the screen and once you run into them, the battle begins. And when you're in combat, you have to wait for your party members' bars to fill up before you can attack. But this is real time, so if you're slacking and you're not paying attention, the enemies can attack you. It doesn't matter if your bar's filled up. They're not going to wait for you to attack and then they attack and no, it's not like that. This is real time, so you have to pay attention. As I said before, once you level up, you get more health and your stats go up. Some of them do. You don't get to personally pick what goes up. You don't have control when it comes to that. The way your party members get stronger and the way you get stronger is by finding different items, mixing and matching, and just buying stuff. You can buy shields, you can get more powerful weapons for your characters, you can buy healing items, you can buy items that hurt the enemy, you can have different elemental powers in your party members' attacks, like you can poison people or shoot fire at somebody. Just standard RPG stuff. If you're familiar with the genre, you should have no problems figuring any of this out. But you can also use Miztech in this game, which is something unique to Anachronox. Once you get to a certain part in the game, you'll have something called an Elementor host, and you can use different configurations. You can find different things to put inside this Elementor host, and you can cast different status effects, and you can just mix and match and do different stuff with it. I didn't take advantage of it that much throughout the game because I personally didn't need it, but the option is there if you want to mix and match and use different configurations to try to make your party members stronger. At certain parts in the story, the gameplay switches up and you'll have to play these little mini games. For example, at one point you'll have to enter this area called the Hive, and you're just roaming around trying to find a way to get inside. And during that, you'll have to fight enemies, you have to shoot them. It's kind of like an on-rail shooters type thing. And there are other mini games, so the gameplay does switch up every now and then. Your party members also have special abilities that you will use throughout the game, sometimes to progress through the main story, and other times just to do some side stuff, maybe get items, or just explore different areas that you don't necessarily need to see. For example, Boots can pick locks, and Grumpos, he can drive people crazy with his rambling. I can relate to that. Sometimes I can ramble on for a long time and drive people fucking insane. My biggest problem with the gameplay in Anachronox is specifically the combat animations. They are so fucking slow. It's like the people are made out of molasses, or the creatures, or a planet made out of molasses if you're specifically talking about Democratus. It's so slow, and when your characters have to do their specials or they have to attack, it takes so fucking long. I don't know why they go so slow in combat. It can be dreadful at times when you're trying to grind or you have to get through an area and there's a lot of enemies. I don't know why they made it that slow. It can be a drag. Luckily, there is a way around this though. There is a specific button, and I forgot what it was, but you can look it up. You don't have to hack the game or download a mod. It's built into the game. There's a specific button on your keyboard that speeds everything up. So luckily they did add that in the game, so it's not as big of a problem, but it's not perfect. If you're fighting a boss or you're fighting really tough enemies and you have to pay attention, if you're just holding down the speed up key, you could not pay attention and everything can go a bit too fast and you die because the enemies are powerful. It's better than nothing though. At least they have something in there to speed it up if you need it. Still, I don't know why they had to make the combat animations so slow to begin with. If you look at some of your party members' specials, it can take like 30 or 40 seconds, and I'm not exaggerating. It feels like it's that long. I'm just sitting there thinking, why the fuck did you make it so slow? I played on the hardest difficulty, and overall the game did give me a good challenge. There were some bosses that took me over 10 or 15 attempts to beat, and I almost rage quitted a couple times. Here's a bit of advice: if you're playing this game, always keep your inventory stacked with good healing items. There are certain parts in this game where you're cut off and you're just in a specific area and you can't leave, you can't backtrack and go to a store if you need to. So if you're in that area and you run out of healing items or you don't have enough, you have to go back to a previous save because you're fucked. So make sure that you always keep your inventory stacked with the items you need. Now, Anachronox is a long game. It's going to at least take you 50 hours to beat, and if you're thorough and you try to collect all the collectibles and get the best weapons or find some of the secrets, it could take you anywhere from 50 to 70 hours. This is a vast game. You're going to be exploring different planets. There are a lot of areas to see. The story takes its time to develop, so there's a lot to take in with these characters. I was actually surprised at how much content there was in this game. I've never seen anything like this before. It's a comedy/drama, and it's set in a future where you go to different planets and you can go into space, and characters, they have problems in their past that you're working through as you play through the game. And we've seen this type of stuff before, but Anachronox takes this theme and it flips it right on its head. It gives it its own unique spin, and it was something that I wanted to play from beginning to end. I mean, I was hooked on this game from the first 2 hours. Right in the beginning, I wanted to fucking get right to the end and see what happens in the story. It's the strength of the characters and the setting and the way everything seems like an epic game, like this vast universe that you have to explore with a lot of background and a lot of lore. As I said before, this was supposed to be a trilogy. Unfortunately, it seems like we're never going to get the other parts, and that's a shame because the developers did such a great job with the atmosphere and sound in Anachronox. You're going to be going on solo missions. You're going to be going into big alien cities where you see all types of different species interacting with each other. You're going to be in bunched in closed areas. It kind of reminds you of some of the areas you've been, but of course it's in the future. You're going to be going on other planets where some of them look like these crazy fucking jungles where you get attacked. You'll be going underground into areas that have a volcano and with the bosses that popped up. You're going to go into an area that looks like it's straight out of a comic book. You're going to be going to this crazy area where they have this weird way of doing politics where they trick people into thinking they live in a democracy. You will go into a red light district with odd names like the Orange Navel. That always cracks me up when I hear it. You're going to be escaping a doomed planet. You're going to go into a hive and try to infiltrate it and figure out the best way to get inside while you're being attacked. There are elements of cyberpunk and old school detectives like film noir mixed into this game, and there's a lot more to see in this game. It's an epic game, there's a grand scope, it's just a vast universe, and that's one of the strongest points about this game. I also like the soundtrack. There's a lot of good themes and moments, and there's a good amount of variety. One song sounds like it's almost from medieval times, another song is a nice piano song, and I always like hearing the piano. It's one of my favorite instruments. I'm not good at describing music in the game, so I'll just let music play in the background of my reviews so you'll understand what type of songs that I like in the soundtrack. To me, the biggest problem with the sound and atmosphere in this game is the voice acting. It's okay, it's not terribly bad, but it's not really good either. It sounds like they got a bunch of people that were working on the game and got them all in a booth and told them to voice act to save money. It's not terrible, it gets the job done, but it's not really good. I mean, I like Boots' voice and I like the way he delivers it. I think it works for him, but for some people like Stiletto, it just sounds odd. It reminds me of another game that Ion Storm made, Deus Ex. With the voice acting there, I read somewhere in the comment section, and I don't know if it's true, that they just got a bunch of people that were working on a game to do the voices, and I think it worked better with Deus Ex because some of the characters, they're supposed to sound like they got no emotion, they're supposed to sound soulless, and they're supposed to sound like that. They're not supposed to be overly dramatic and emotional, and they're supposed to sound like a professional. But in Anachronox, it didn't work as well as Deus Ex. It's not a terrible thing. I don't think the voice acting is so bad that it takes me out the game, that I'm not immersed. No, this is a great game. It's just there and you'll notice it. And just to let you know, one of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song in this game, is called Cold Sweat. You hear that in a strip club. Yeah, it's kinda sleazy, but I love that song. Overall, I recommend you play this game. It's a great game. It does have some flaws and some of them can be a pain in the ass, as I mentioned before. But to me, those are not big enough problems to take you out of the experience. Play this game. It's underappreciated. It was a commercial failure when it came out, and that's a damn shame because we need more games like this. This is unique, and we need this fucking trilogy to happen. This game ends on a cliffhanger. We need the other two games to come out. I want to know more about the story. So yeah, this game gets my seal of approval. I recommend it. Thank you for watching another episode. Let me know what you think about this. Leave a comment if you want. You can message me on Twitter. You can leave a comment below. You know how to get into contact with me. Have a great day.